Hey everyone, it's unfortunately not Monday, it's Tuesday, April 14th. I was supposed to have this up yesterday, but fun fact, Final Fantasy VII Remake came out last week, and I have been playing that almost nonstop and was at the finish point last night. Uh, knew I actually woke up, I was supposed to have it up by 12 anyways, this podcast. And then I was playing Final Fantasy and I was like, I could probably just finish this. I was close to the end. And then the end ended up being another 5 to 10 hours, and then I was mentally exhausted by then. So sorry this is late. Just know it was for a very good reason. A great, oh my god, beautiful story, beautiful game. Final Fantasy VII Remake. I actually feel bad for anyone who hasn't played the old one, but I think this new one is going to be just fine for those who haven't. Either way, I don't want to get into spoilers. Not this kind of podcast, though I probably will do some sort of video on Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've been wanting to do a video of some sort on video games because I love in-depth RPGs. Chrono Cross was one that I have on my list, and I think I'm gonna start it with Final Fantasy VII Remake because again I love it and it's fresh in my mind. I can get going with it and do it, and then hopefully I can use that momentum to do another game. We'll figure it out, see how it goes. Either way, this is esports. This is the Collegiate Esports podcast. My guest this time is going to be Ashley from Grandview University. Ashley is mostly a player, but she's also been a team coach as well, part-time caster, doing I think actually casting for the U.S. Army esports right now, which is I thought that was pretty cool. We talk about a little bit about that. We talk about a lot of stuff esports. Again, she's done a lot of stuff, and we talk about that. She's actually getting into Rainbow Six, so talk about Rainbow Six a little bit too. But a lot of it's going to be on the management side of Grandview as well as being a player. So without further ado, go and take a listen and enjoy. I don't know if you and I have ever actually met, have we?
We've never met. We've never spoken. Our interactions have been solely on Twitter.
That happens sometimes. That's the beauty of this whole, the whole, I guess, esports thing is you can do that. I thought at least I would. So HughFest had a lot of people at it in Harrisburg University. I figure if I don't know somebody, it's probably from there because I mean Midwest Campus Clash is very niche. CSL, I mean I'm so busy at CSL. I don't think anybody ever really speaks to me, and I mean the DreamHack was so long ago. I don't think any of those people are ever playing anymore. But yeah. So you and I have not even Harrisburg.
No, I've actually never been to a HughFest. So my first year in the collegiate scene, as far as playing, when I was at Culver Stockton, our league team went, but our Overwatch team didn't. So I didn't get to go.
Okay, yeah.
And then this past year, we were supposed to go, and then we were looking like our team wasn't going to be strong. We were going to get probably rolled by everyone because we lost quite a few players over the change in years. And our school just decided 2 days before we were supposed to leave that we're not going anymore, which was pretty upsetting, to say the least. But
so
is what it is.
You went from Culver Stockton to Grandview. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And Grandview, you had a little bit more success. I saw a couple months back. I think it was actually just a month ago. You placed pretty well, right? And I think it was an Overwatch tournament of some sort. Yeah.
Yeah. So we competed at a LAN event held by I always forget at UNI, University of Northern Iowa, I believe. And it wasn't like the greatest teams that were competing there, of course, but it was more local stuff. But we placed first in that, which was pretty good. Otherwise, I mean, the season's been up and down so far, but my first time with the team, we're still trying to build a roster. Our school's mostly known for League of Legends, and it's just because that's what we really have focused on building up when we started out, and so we're getting there.
You're part of the Overwatch scene, correct?
Yes, I'm part of the Overwatch.
All right, so this is going to be. I'm coming from a very ignorant standpoint here because I'm a league guy, but obviously I enjoy collegiate athletics all around, but I don't feel like I know near enough about Overwatch to really have an opinion. I've wanted to join TESPA just for various reasons, and I know that Overwatch would be the primary thing since the dorm isn't a thing anymore, which bless its soul. I know. I actually really liked Heroes. I liked Heroes of the Storm. I think it's fun to watch.
But, yeah, I mean it's definitely interesting. It's just it was kind of a bummer when all that esports scene went away.
Yeah, I have a friend named Noon who's where are they from? It's not one of the schools in Ohio. I think it's Lourdes University in Ohio.
Right.
Where, like that was her thing, and then and then and then there's nothing to have a thing for. So I felt really bad for her. But
Yeah.
yeah, so educate me on Overwatch. How is the collegiate Overwatch scene? Because the biggest part I've ever gotten was actually at Hugh Fest, and that was localized. It was like a very isolated thing, but it was between Maryville University and Harrisburg University, and Maryville won. But I think it went to the very last map of the last game, and it was extremely close. Is that still kind of a good indication of the power rankings? I think this was like 2 years ago, so I don't even know anymore.
I think that's a fairly relevant indication of the power rankings. I think your top four teams right now in collegiate are going to be Harrisburg, Maryville, UCI, and Utah.
So almost
As far as those,
so pretty much like almost like it is with league, give or take Utah there.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, those are the forefront leaders in collegiate esports as it is. Kind of that like founding fathers Mount
Yeah,
Rushmore, if you will,
yeah. I
for
mean,
lack of a better terminology, I guess. But yeah, no, so that's really where the top is. As far as collegiate Overwatch in general, the best way to describe it is chaos.
yeah,
So you have like your top four, top 16, like that kind of area where the teams are like pretty good. Your top four is more of like Maryville. Maryville is basically a contenders level team, so basically equivalent to in league what you would excuse me words
all good.
equated to
It's like
academy.
the academy or challenger scene, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
academy, and maybe a little bit lower, more of your like upsurge, amateurs,
yeah,
that type of stuff, right?
gotcha.
Um, and so they're good, right? And Harrisburg's right up there. They signed Elk. Elk is a former pro Overwatch player
So
that is
that's their
now
second
playing collegiate.
pro former pro because Joe Meister's still on their team, right? But I think he's a coach, correct?
He's either a coach or a manager.
Okay,
I'm not entirely sure on that one, but yeah, he's been with them for a while. But yeah, so they're like up there, and
yeah.
then you have like your top like rest of that kind of pack that's pretty good. More of like tier three, lower amateur type of level of play, um, and could possibly compete at that kind of level. But and then the rest is just a hodgepodge of anywhere from silver gold teams to grandmaster challenger ish teams, right? For lack of like a better comparison to league.
Yeah, I
And
gotcha.
it's it's a mess, right? Because Tespa did something the first year, my first year, they had three different leagues you could compete in: national, regional, and varsity. So you would play 3 matches a week, and you could make playoffs through either one of those leagues.
Wait, one team could play in all three?
Yeah. So for instance, Culver, because we were a varsity program at our school, we played in varsity league, we played in our regional league, and we played in the national league. Um, our regional league, we had like decent competition. I think we had like Maryville in there and stuff. So we didn't make it out of playoffs there, and we didn't make it out of playoffs in our varsity league either because it was good competition. But we placed pretty well in national league, competing much above like our ranking, and so we did make that playoffs, and then we lost in playoffs. But yeah, you could make it out of each one.
Oh, that I don't, I don't know about that one. That just seems a little weird. How did
It's
you?
it's a really different system.
I was wondering how do you feel about it? Because I mean that gives more opportunity for you as a player, but at the same time, when you're looking at at the grand scheme of things, like you have three entry points,
Yeah.
and I mean I don't know if those aren't separated by level of play whatsoever, correct?
I mean, not necessarily, no, right? So from a logistics standpoint, it's really hard, especially because, like you said, there's no separation of level of play. If I go into a regional league and everyone in my region is plat average, and I'm a masters team, it's free, right? Like, and two teams will get out, then a plat team will get out and be in playoffs with a bunch of really good teams, and you kind of have to wonder where that's at. But on the other hand, right, if you look at something like CLOL, where not many teams make it out of each individual bracket, and then like the Big Ten has their own thing that makes it in, and like playoffs just seems very weird with that, and I still don't understand that system completely. I liked that there was more opportunity to make
Okay.
playoffs and give you a chance, right? As it is now, because they changed it, right? This year, a bunch of stuff happened with Tespa, a bunch of craziness with Blizzard and how they're handling the scene and how hands-on they are with it. And now it's on a different program, and we only play. There's a varsity and then there's a club season, and I think they go into the same playoff bracket overall, but they're separated. So my team only plays varsity teams, and the club teams only play club teams.
But
And it's really,
does the club team still compete for the same prize as the varsity team?
as far as I'm aware, once they get to playoffs, right?
Okay,
But
okay.
there's a massive skill discrepancy between most varsity teams and most club teams, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like the starter team and the B team, essentially,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, essentially for most cases, right? There's a couple of schools that have really good club teams, right? Some of your bigger schools, like a Michigan State, if it's not a varsity program, might have a good club team or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But for us, we went into a varsity league, and this season, 3 of our matches were so our first match of the season was UCI, top 4 team,
Right.
so rough. Second match of the season, no, not second, but third match of the season, and was a 4K plus average team, so like a grandmaster average team. And then we had a master's average team, and then we played Boise, which is a grandmaster average team as well. So that was a fun time. And then we didn't get to play that match because Tespa's been suspended indefinitely for right now.
Yeah, I think
But
everything has at this point.
yeah, but our last match of the season was going to be Utah.
Okay, and they're considered a top 4 as well, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it makes it, and there's less ways. So there's less ways to get to the playoffs. There's a bigger like gap. Like a club team can make playoffs and will probably get destroyed, but like a varsity team that might win against most club teams can't make it because they're in varsity sometimes. And so it's
I can see how that's
this,
infuriating.
yeah, it's a little frustrating. Of course, most people say we'll just try to improve, get better, and that sort of thing. But I don't know. I don't like the system as much. But
Yeah, because
overall, they just keep changing who's running it, and they can't seem to figure it out right now.
at that point, like so, do you know what determines a varsity team? Like why does a varsity team go into the varsity bracket instead of the club bracket? Because if that's the point, and one team one year loses, and I'm not saying you have all the answers. Like I said, I'm totally ignorant. So if I say something, if I ask something that you have no idea, I just say I have no idea because I'm truly just trying to understand the system of TESPA because I've always wanted to, and I have an opportunity. Hello, so so what's the keep? So one year a varsity team sees what you just described, where they could beat that club team that went to the playoffs, but they didn't get the chance to. What's to stop that varsity team from saying, "Hey, let's just be a club team this year," and just kind of running rampant on the club system?
I think one, it's how you sign up for it, but two, I think it's also with like it has something to do with how your school supports and funds you uh, and
Okay, so if there's like,
qualifications. I'm not really
okay,
entirely sure.
no, that makes sense because if it's that sort of thing, then it sounds like what they're trying to do is separate the ones that get an actual funding possibly that is considered a varsity team in the eyes of the school possibly. That's
Yeah,
what
but
I'm hearing.
it's just really weird their like criteria. For instance,
Sounds like a clusterfuck.
yeah, for lack of a better word. But for instance, for example, in the fall, they held a preseason, right? And they held a preseason for the clubs and stuff, and then they held a preseason varsity invitational thing. And so 10 teams got to just go straight to varsity invitational, and then the rest of the varsity teams played through like a play-in bracket. The issue a lot of people had was that the qualifications to become one of those top 10 varsity teams was like a solidly established varsity program. Like they put out a list of like, we want you to be solidly established. We're going to look at the health of your program, show that you've been working towards it, like that sort of thing, that you're in the scene, right? That you're a solid varsity program.
Yeah.
And then they announced the 10 teams. And of course, you've got your Harrisburg, Utah, whatever, right? Like the ones that you're expecting.
Right.
But this was Mizzou's first year as like a varsity program.
Yeah, I remember when they were getting established.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love Mizzou. I know 2 of their players. I coached 2 of their players when I was coaching at a tier 3 level. Like great players, great people. but they weren't an established program, and they got a invitation to be in those top 10 teams. And they were a good team, high level team, but it was just very confusing to me to be like, they aren't there. So the criteria is all over the place with TESPA, and I'm just never super sure about what's going on because
That's
it keeps changing.
as a player and a coach, that is an interesting point of view.
Yeah, it's an issue, man. It's a Blizzard issue. It's
Yeah.
I hate to say it, it's a Blizzard issue because it's the same way with the path to pro scene outside of like the collegiate scene for like their open division and how you get to like contenders and like that academy level. Like it's not clear, it's not funded, it's not well formatted, and everybody's just like, what's going on? And you get no answers.
All right. So infrastructure could use some help there too. Then.
Yeah, just a little bit.
All right. So, I guess switching gears a little bit, because again, rare opportunity. I got to talk to a player and a coach at the same time. How is it different from being obviously? I mean, there's obvious differences playing and coaching between playing and coaching, but from your point of view, what are some of the biggest differences you noticed? Going from a top tier player in the collegiate scene to being a coach in the collegiate scene.
I think moving as a coach in collegiate is harder than moving as a coach elsewhere. I did. I'm not since I'm currently playing. I'm not currently coaching in the collegiate scene, but I did a little bit like of assistant coaching at Culver, and then I did some official coaching for like path to pro stuff.
Okay.
Just to give a little bit of background. I think the difference there is just kind of the dynamic. I think it's hard to go from being a player to being a coach in the collegiate scene because if I'm coaching the path to pro scene, I can get new players, right? Like players are going to come and go. I'm going to switch teams. I'm going to move teams, move up in the ladder, like that sort of thing, right? Being a coach in collegiate, it happens once a year that you get new players, or even twice a year, maybe, right? You're you're really having to work with what you have and make sure you understand each player on an individual basis and how they work, how their mind works, how they learn and improve at the game, and how to get all of them to work together with good chemistry while still maintaining a healthy relationship because I'm a student. I'm still there. I see them every day, right? Like you don't want to be off-putting where they don't feel like they can connect with you,
Right.
but at the same time, you don't want it to be I'm your friend and therefore you can just kind of blow me off and not respect me. It's a really hard dynamic. As a player, that dynamic is not nearly as difficult because I come in, I play the game. You have an opinion, I have an opinion. We have a coach that tells us what he thinks the right thing to do is. We try to make that happen, right? I don't have to, I don't have to balance egos as much
Right.
with that, and figure out how to work necessarily along with you. Because if the coach says we're going to play a passive style around this player, then I say, cool. I go to that player. I say, how do I work with you to make that happen? And from my role and my responsibility. But as a coach, I think it's actually much more difficult. And I think it's much more difficult to get respected as a coach as well. Because if in the collegiate scene, because you're working with so many players, if you have some of those high ranking players that are going to give you more pushback, um, and some more of that ego. If you're not at that like high rank, you might get more of that pushback than maybe you would get in the other scene because Path to Pro understands that most coaches aren't former contenders players or Overwatch League players. Like it's just not how things are.
Gotcha.
So,
So, I mean, it sounds like you highly prefer being a player then.
no, I actually highly prefer being a coach.
Oh, really? Do you just like the challenges and dynamic that you were speaking of?
Yeah, I mean, I like the dynamic and the challenges, but beyond that, I like being able to perceive the game from an outside perspective more. That's why I like casting as well, because I feel like while I have a solid understanding of in the game what I need to do and how to accomplish it and how to be a leader in the game for my team, I think when I'm casting or when I'm coaching, I can see so much more for what the game can be and should be. And that allows me to really be creative with compositions, with how we rotate, right? Like how we use our ultimates. It's how we play the game and how we approach the game. And then with casting, that allows me to be more descriptive. And I feel like I get to teach people the game and while getting to see so much more than what maybe the players are seeing or even the average person sees. And so I think I just get a better viewpoint.
Yeah, that is actually something that, and I don't know how familiar you are with, professional League of Legends or anything like that. I don't, and again, I'm pretty much out of the loop on that. But like a couple of years ago, a few years ago, when I was watching it, still, that was actually one of the issues over in Europe. Is that, which I mean, it was subject matter over in Korea as well, but not really an issue because if I recall, all the rules were followed to be able to transition to what I'm about to talk to. But or talk about. But over in Europe, one of the teams was like soliciting information from one of the casters because the caster was a former pro player, but he also, again, as you know, as I know, in casting, you see everything and you start to see patterns. You get a lot of data as a caster, and you can use that, especially if you know how to use that and just know how to apply that into a game. So I believe that it was Copenhagen Wolves, I believe. I think,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah. They were essentially getting information from Deficio or trying to solicit him to be a coach. It was something like that, and it kind of went against the rules. And I think he got suspended for like a week or two of broadcast. But over in Korea, Monty was the exact same way, except he didn't do it while broadcasting. I think he actually just stopped broadcasting, and then he became a coach for. I think he did a coach for two teams. One of them was like Renegades, I think.
Yeah, he founded Renegades.
Yeah. Founded Renegades, did that. But yeah, no, coaching, like, yeah, casters have so much knowledge that I don't think is like appreciated sometimes.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? I think people need to understand that from a casting perspective, it's my desire is that if I understand Overwatch or even League of Legends in a way where I can explain a concept and talk about this really cool in-depth concept, I have to oftentimes hold back on that because I don't know how to put it into words that are one, succinct, but two, that the average viewer is going to understand quickly, right?
Right. Yeah, because
And
as a caster, you're also trying to teach the game too.
yeah, you're trying to teach the game, but you're not trying to teach it at a level of like you're a challenger level player, right? So like when you hear pro players watching back broadcasts and criticizing casters for keeping things basic or maybe getting something wrong or over generalizing a concept, it feels bad because that's kind of their job. They might understand the game way past what they're saying and that sort of thing, and most do because you have that knowledge and you don't have to be a former pro to understand the game at that level, but you're just not able to really express it all the time.
Yeah, not to mention, not everyone that's watching League of Legends or Overwatch knows exactly what's happening. I mean, I know, or even if they do, they're not at the level of play to where they can understand some of the more complex things. And kind of contrary to popular belief, not everyone's a platinum player or above. There's a lot of bronze, silver, and coppers out there that still watch the game for fun, and yeah, some of those like deeper concepts don't really mesh very well with like people who just want to see the game and have a more generalized view of it. Which, whenever that makes up the bulk of your audience, you kind of have to go with it and
Yeah, I mean,
just cater.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think about last year, the Overwatch League. So a lot of Overwatch League matches were broadcast on Disney XD, right?
Yeah,
That fan base is a very young viewer fan base. Whenever games were broadcast on Disney XD versus just on Twitch, you could actively tell that the casters not only changed their vernacular, but also changed the level at which they described and taught the game because they had to, for lack of a better term, dumb it down,
yeah, yeah.
simplify it for the viewer base. And that's totally understandable. My parents have watched some of my casts for Overwatch and been like, I don't understand what's going on, but
Yeah.
you explained some things that had like well enough that I kind of got a couple concepts. And I'm like, well, okay, I did my job to a degree.
Yeah, that's the
But
best part about live events is going to see the parents. It's like, well, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm glad you explained some of it, so that's nice.
yeah, and I think the biggest part like is that you just have people just don't understand that as a coach and as a caster, there's so much knowledge to be given that you can't always get out. And that's why I like seeing like the LEC putting out content where they have things where they give a breakdown on how things are going. And all that sort of thing, and talk about lane matchups and go deeper dives on YouTube and that sort of thing, and make that kind of content so that they can express some of those deeper concepts without feeling like they're taking over the broadcast too much.
So I think this may transition well because I think this is what this is going to be about. And whenever this podcast gets posted, this is going to be beyond your first episode. But you have a stream coming up called "Stay Informed: Casters and Coaches." Is this essentially what this is covering?
To a degree. So I wanted to. I've been struggling with trying to come up with something interesting to stream lately. Quarantine has had me just like, I don't want to stream myself playing Bronze League matches all the time. Let's put it that way. I don't know. I want to come up with something creative to give back. And the concept is a little bit of that, but a little bit more about talking about things I've learned as a coach and also things I've learned as a caster and being in a media communications major, and talking about what casters and coaches that are looking to get into castings and coaches should expect, things that they should be looking for, things that they should be doing, and things that they should be avoiding. There's certain traits that you don't want to have as a coach going forward, and you don't want to get, say, caught up in always following what other people are saying is the meta, right? Like, this might be the meta, but what makes G2 is that they're creative, right? They take off meta picks into different lanes. They lane swap. They do what they need to do, and they put their opponents in this weird place where maybe they don't know that matchup. Maybe they haven't seen that before. Or how is this changing the dynamic of how we play the game? How we push lanes? How we answer all these different questions? And that one switch up is the creativity needed to get more wins, to put yourself ahead and keep that step up. And if you just become a coach that only follows the meta, then it's an issue because you're not creative. You're not going to push yourself further in your career because you're a sheep following the shepherd at that point. So kind of talking about concepts like that.
All right, that's fair. I mean, all very relevant, of course. Man, I haven't casted in so long. It's like it's sometimes I wonder if like I can even cast again. Like, you know, you like do it for so long, and then if you stop, like I feel like I've lost all knowledge because these games change so fast. Which is something else a lot of people don't understand, is that some of these games have a patch every 2 weeks, and things can change just on the fly. And when the season ends, then everything changes, especially League of Legends. Like there's not an official season of Worlds. But I mean, you can tell when it's Worlds time for League because assassins are really prominent in the jungle and the in the mid lane. So yeah, like things change so fast, and some people just don't get that.
No, yeah, absolutely. Like for instance, I casted our Grandview's League of Legends tournament that we hosted before spring break a couple weeks back.
I actually want to talk to you about that as well, but you go ahead and finish your point. I'm curious about that.
And so when I was casting that, no top laners. Kalista top wasn't a thing. You weren't building Blade of the Rune King on top laners. Death Dance, Blade of the Rune King hadn't been buffed yet. And now if I went to cast a League of Legends match, I don't know the statistics on the new Death Dance or Blade of the Rune King. I think Death Dance gives more armor and magic resist now. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, do they change it around?
And Blade of the Rune King has some sort of thing where you do more damage based on the max health you have. Again, I don't know. But keeping up with these things, especially when I don't play the game at that high level and in quarantine, is I have to watch a lot of VODs and keep up with it continually. Be like, what are the pros doing? What are the pros building? I'm watching pro views. I'm watching streams. I'm watching in collegiate stuff. Like, I'm trying to keep up with all the information. And it's incredibly hard, especially if you cast multiple games. If you're not just League of Legends, if you're casting Overwatch, Rainbow Six, and if a new game comes out, Valorant's coming out soon. In the summer, I mean, you have to pick up that game and then the next game, and like you always have to be on your toes as a caster, and taking in information is so crucial.
Yeah, speaking of Rainbow Six real quick, which I know I said I want to talk about GVU's tournament, but I saw you also tweeted that you're going to try to learn and play Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six is what I have I guess gravitated toward after my time with League of Legends. I love Rainbow Six. I casted it very briefly. It was my cast was remedial, like as far as knowledge, but I still had everything I had from the League of Legends time. and just brought it over to Rainbow Six, but with a lack of knowledge. So like that's why I say everything was remedial. How are you taking to Rainbow Six? Did you like it? Is that were you playing it or trying to cast it?
I'm playing it currently. So most games that I try and cast, I try to play at least a little bit, so I understand the game to a degree. Um, I enjoy the game. The pacing of the game confuses me.
Yeah. Like
Uh,
what part?
well, coming from Overwatch,
Oh
I
yeah,
played
Overwatch
Overwatch.
is so fast.
Overwatch is incredibly fast, right?
Yeah.
And then I went to something like CS:GO, which feels incredibly slow.
Yeah.
And Rainbow Six has this like weird middle ground of that, where it's not run and gun shooter style, but you can do that. But it's also not camp and sit shooter style, but you can camp and wall bang and break wall. Like, I don't know if I should just be sitting on the bomb site to wait for someone to come to me on defense, or if I'm gonna go find them. Should I be spawn peeking? How do I make the most out of my like tactical things? I don't know the maps yet.
So the maps are the hardest part, honestly. The maps, oh my gosh, there are so many map mechanics that you have to go through. There's like, oh man, I wish I could find it, and most of them aren't even relevant anymore because some of the maps have changed. But the what was it? There was like a Reddit thread on map mechanics about angle. Well, one, all the angles, which you have to know all the angles, the drone spots, the drone holes, the what do they call those? The areas of breach,
There's just so much.
Yeah, so I've always described Rainbow Six as the chess version of a first-person shooter because, well, you said, yeah, you can just run and gun. You can also wait and bide your time, but you kind of got to do both because I mean you have. It's a 5v5 for anyone who doesn't know Rainbow Six. It's a 5v5, and you have attackers and defenders, and in those subcategories, you have attackers that do certain things versus these other attackers that do certain things, and then you have the same thing with defenders, where there's like 3 or 4 subcategories of defenders as well. So there's so much variety that you have to consider in Rainbow Six, and it's not just one or the other, but it could be. Like Ashley just said,
it's just so complicated.
It's intricate.
I think what got me the most was I walked into a room on defense on Chalet and on a bomb site, and it said defend the bomb. So I walked into the room with the bomb, and I looked around, and there were 2 windows that were breakable. There was a big door that was breakable, and then there was a side room with a door, and then the side room with 2 breakable windows.
This is the second floor, right?
Yeah, and I'm like,
I know what you're talking about.
Where am I supposed to be? If I hold back side of it, someone could come from behind me. Someone could come from the big door or the 2 windows to my right. If I hold the other room, they could come from above me, behind me. They could come from the big door or into the room. I don't know where I'm supposed to go anymore.
Okay, so in that situation. And I know this podcast is essentially just getting down to me teaching you Rainbow Six now, which I'm all right if you are.
I'm down.
Okay, so essentially in that situation, you have to use your intel. You have to use all of the information you have. So you have the cameras, which, by the way, anyone listening, Rainbow Six also has cameras you have to look at. And there's operators that have cameras they can also throw to add to the cameras that are already on the room.
I play Valkyrie.
Yeah, exactly. So Valkyrie has 3 cameras that you can just toss in most places, and that's just more intel that you have to take into, but that's also more intel the enemy has to try to find and deny or avoid or just go through it and hope for the best.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like, and then with that, right, it's if I'm Valkyrie and I put my cameras up and I'm in that room and then I go into the side room, I prone and I pull out my cameras. As soon as I pull out to go look at the cameras, someone comes in through a window and kills me.
All right, so so sound propagation is so important in this game too. So one time I was actually applying to be one of the on the analyst desk. And I was like, this is in my hubris. I was like, I could probably do that, which I
feel like we all have that moment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I know my knowledge wasn't near up, and I actually like. I watched so many VODs to prepare for this. I watched it was a VOD. I had to do a VOD of 2 of the professional teams and just a match on what was it? Consulate, I think it was, which is like a very like it's a very basic map. It's common. It hasn't been changed. It's a bread and butter kind of map. And I actually thought I did all right. I wasn't picked, and you know what? I'm fine with that. But like I learned a lot from doing that, from just like studying about that. And oh my gosh, sound propagation is extraordinarily important. So you know, whenever you look at your cameras, by the way, and you like pull out your little cell phone in the game, you can like the enemy can hear that if they're in the relative area, and it has to be in the relative area where the sound is able to travel to the place that they're at. So if it's a thin wall, they can hear it. They can hear a little bit of it, especially if it's just that boarded up wall. But if it's like a reinforced wall, it's a little bit harder. And if there's not a hole in the area, it's a little bit harder. But if there is a hole in the area, and say like you shoot, somebody can hear the reverberation of that in like a hallway, down the hallway. It's like there's so much to do with sound in that game. So that's one of the ways that you would be looking at like the situation you're at, where you're trying to defend all these points. Also the cameras, you want to do that. And also B, let's not forget your teammates. They're supposed to be helping you, but you know,
okay.
That doesn't always help.
I play a team-based game, and I play League. I play Overwatch. I've played CS:GO. I don't ever rely on my teammates to do anything.
See, that's honestly, it's probably best.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I can't tell you the amount of times, because I just play like really scared because I don't know what I'm doing, and that I'm sitting on a bomb site and all my teammates have died and I'm the last one alive every time.
It's rough.
It's an interesting game. I'm enjoying it. I'm learning it. It's been fun, but it's definitely different from what I'm used to. So.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Rainbow Six is one of the most unique shooters, which I think is why it still is surviving and has actually thrived and rose up quite a bit, because there's really nothing like it out there. Like, play Valorant, it looks like a baby between Overwatch and CS:GO. There is no parent to Rainbow Six. It was created out of nothingness. It was created through the Force, carried by Shmi, and given birth. She can't explain it. It just happens, and Yoda's out there looking for. I'm getting way off tangent with a Star Wars.
We're not going Star Wars. Right.
Star Wars reference. I'm sorry about that. So, that was I'm sorry about that long tangent.
No, you're good. Don't worry about it.
I'm really glad. I'm glad you're getting into it though. Go on.
Yeah, I do want to talk about this, because you did mention that you applied to be an analyst on the analyst test for R6, and talked about that hubris moment. And I mentioned, I think we all have that hubris moment. Like, have you had multiple of those? Because I had mine I applied to be an LCK caster this past year, because they put out a thing, and I was like, I don't know, I don't have any League of Legends casting experience. I don't have a VOD really, but like I'll make one here. And they sent me a nice email and said, we won't be taking you at this time. And you know, with current situation, it might have been for the best. But you know, you put yourself out there, right early on. And so I always think that experience is always interesting, because you think, I could maybe do this. I could push myself to get there quicker, but you know, maybe not. It's not necessarily the most realistic thing.
That's true. So one of the roots of my hubris is that like I will see opportunities that I don't go for, that I see are filled by people at the time. I'm not saying it's an overall thing, and we all change, we all get better, and we have our off days, we have our good days, but they're filled by people where I'm sitting back, it's like I could have done that better. And that's a lot of part of my hubris, and a lot of it is just pure hubris, because again, like I know I'm not the best. I found something that no one else wanted to do, and I stuck with it, and that's essentially what collegiate casting was for me. And now there are way more options out there, because you know, collegiate broadcasting has gotten way more popular. But I mean, I will say bigger. I don't know about popular, but I mean, it's used as a pathway for a lot more things nowadays. And hubris gets me sometimes, and it still does. But at the same time, I think it's all right, because I don't know how much in esports you've worked outside of broadcasting, or you know, I've been in an office job in esports. But I mean, I'm going to speak from. I'm not going to name names. I'm not even going to name the company. But I've worked for. I've worked in marketing for a company. We were like partnered with TSM and all that. We got that while I was there. I actually got multiple partners. It was really good. It was great. My boss was a freaking moron. And he was so nice. He was a nice dude, but he had no idea what he was doing. And I think if I would have actually like given into my hubris and stepped up a little bit, I think things could have been better, because that was during the rise of Fortnite, and TSM were getting into Fortnite, and I was like, hey, we should look at this Fortnite. I think this is going to be big, and there's reasons. Here are the reasons. And he's like, no, we want League of Legends. And I'm like, okay, well, I understand that, but their League of Legends team is swamped with all these other sponsors right now. Like, we should really do this, because nobody gives a crap about Fortnite right now, but they will. And then Fortnite went on to become the biggest thing, and I lost my contract because the marketing team didn't do all the things they needed to do. If I would have just given into my cockiness, I think I could have done way better there. And it pisses me off that I'm like here now. No, not here now with you or anything. But I'm here now with that in my life. Like, could have done better if I would have just given in. Like, I knew I was better. Why didn't I just
that's entirely fair, right? I get the same feeling. I watch, and this is coming from someone where I keep pretty busy and I don't cast as much as I should. I want to cast more, but I just don't. But like, where, for instance, I saw someone with casting the other day, and I was like, I could do that better. Why am I not in that job, right? And it was with a decent sized like broadcast group, for something, and I was like, And like, that's not to say I don't have good opportunities, right? I cast with the U.S. Army Esports and that sort of thing, and Grandview gives me opportunities, so I'm blessed for that. But like hubris as well in coaching, I knew coaches that were above me and were far underqualified, and that was a big reason why I left the path to pro coaching scene, was because I felt like it was too much nepotism, that people were getting ahead for the wrong reasons, and even acting on my hubris, it wasn't enough sometimes. So I don't think hubris is always a bad thing, and I think it's important to recognize where those missed opportunities are and to take the ones that are presented to you. Why not shoot your shot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, obviously, you hear me ranting. I did not shoot my shot. Now I'm frustratingly.
Now you're sad recording a podcast with a 20-year-old. I mean, what?
Whoa! I am fine I'm fine with that. I have hashtag no regrets on that one. I'm quite fine. But which I am honored that you're here. Thank you. But yeah, how is casting for the U.S. Army? That's a weird situation, because I mean, U.S. Army, you think, oh, you're going to be government, but that's not have anything to do with it, correct?
No, I'm a civilian. This is the official U.S. Army, their esports program. So I got involved with them through a mutual friend, who I met through a mutual friend. So I was coaching Overwatch at the time, and I was assistant coach for a team, and the head coach knew this person. We needed a ringer for a scrim, and so he brought in his friend, and she's I'm not gonna guess her age, but she's 30 to 40s, in the military, in the army. She's a top flutist in the military.
Oh, I played the flute. What the flout?
Yeah,
I played the flute
but
as a kid.
she's a 4400 like top 500 support player. She's a top tier flutist, as far as like, she spent years mastering this, and like after 8 years, one spot for a flutist position opened up, and she got it in the Army's band.
Wow.
Like, she's dedicated and good at what she does.
I guess so.
And she's incredibly talented in a bunch of other ways, but she was leaving her team, and she took over the U.S. Army's Overwatch program. And so we had become friends, and so she knew that I did casting. And so when they had a couple casting opportunities, their first one, she was like, I want you to do this. I know you're qualified, and I want a civilian on this. I want a different perspective. And I've just kind of had an inroads there. I just stopped coaching, and I wanted to do more casting. And so I've gotten to do a couple of casts for them. And it's just been a really fun time. And it's a really nice platform to get myself out on, and to like put myself out there. I did get a comment on my last cast that I looked like a homeless person. So that was always fun, but you know.
Is that on Twitch?
Yeah.
Of course it is.
I don't read the Twitch chat live.
No,
I was watching it back, and I was reading it, and I noticed it. So it was really funny. But it's also a real challenge, right? Because, for instance, my last cast with them was the U.S. Army Esports versus the U.S. Air Force Gaming. And we had 3 casters. It was me, and this was in Overwatch. It was me, a U.S. Army caster, that was representing the Army and a U.S. Air Force caster. Um, and I had to play like civilian mediator for both of them. I had to make sure they both got time to hype up their own branch. I had to mediate any trash talk, make sure I wasn't going too hard favoritism towards one branch or the other, that sort of thing. And it was a real challenge for me as a caster, and so it's been good opportunities, and I've been blessed to be able to do that.
That's
So
awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah, I love those opportunities where you're it's not something you're like having to break your back to go for. Someone actually speaks up for you. Those are some of the best opportunities you'll find because I mean they come with recognition. It's like, well, someone has faith in me.
hey,
That's
someone
not,
believes in me. What
I
the?
know. I don't even believe in me.
Yeah, what? What?
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier I wanted to talk about Grandview University and some of the tournaments they put on. So, did you have any hand in any of that or anything? Because I've been a huge fan of schools putting on their own tournaments, and I think that's going to be happening more and more because I mean with the new rules with Riot, League of Legends is usually one of the big top 2 or 3 games there, like Overwatch,
Right.
League of Legends, and I don't know, like Hearthstone, maybe StarCraft. I don't know.
I mean Fortnite, Rocket League.
Oh yeah. Rocket League. I can't count them out. Rocket League is awesome, but
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like a lot more schools are going to be trying to do that because Riot's kind of put some restrictions on larger groups, larger venues, or what's the venues, tournaments, larger tournaments, and like they're
Right.
a little bit easier when you have these more localized things. With GVU, did you have anything to do with that, or were you just participating in it and being a home team?
So, I mean, as far as that, I personally didn't like help set up the tournament or anything. Of course, that this was the third annual GSAC tournament. So we host it every year, and it's hosted by Grandview, but it's also run at the same time as we run a NACAD conference. So Dana, our director, is one of the founding like members of NACAD, which is a National Association for the Education of Coaches and Directors. I believe that's what the acronym stands for, NAECAD. But
Alright.
so basically, throughout the year, there's tournaments and conferences held across the country. So there was one in Florida. I think there was supposed to be one in Vegas, and we hold one where coaches and directors come and we hold like
Oh
talks.
yeah, no, that is that no that I remember that one in Vegas because Kurt Melcher was here for that, and I'm like, yeah, I noticed he was here in Vegas. So that's the same one that I recognized here in Vegas. Okay,
Yeah. So
yeah,
they host those throughout the year. So we host that, and at the same time we host a League of Legends tournament. Dana sets all that up. We brought in the teams. I think prominent teams that we had RMU, and then we had Columbia College. So CC was there. University of Texas Dallas was there.
and real quick, that's Dana Husted, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I've talked to her on a few occasions, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was actually wondering like what all the involvement her like she had with it, but she's pretty much the one that just sets it up, yeah.
Yeah, she's setting it up, she's running it, she's getting all the sponsors, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So and I think Midwest helped a little bit with like providing PCs and stuff, because we're part of the Midwest Esports Conference. So everybody comes together and really helps with it. But it's a really cool event. It was over 2 days. My I was there one as a fan because I want to support our League of Legends team. They're awesome. The guys are great. I love them to death. Love our coach to death. But I was also there. I casted a game between I casted CC, so I casted Columbia College versus RMU, which was arguably a stomp. Columbia College just rolled RMU, but it was that, and then I took photos and videos throughout the day, so I was on like media duty for that side of thing for the conference and the games. But otherwise, I was a student and a fan, and I just enjoyed the event.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love these. Like, that's another reason why I love these little, like these, like more isolated events because it gives so many opportunities to students. Because I mean, you said you casted, you played, and you did media. So I mean, that's a big opportunity for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely awesome. Everybody gets involved. Not only do teams get LAN experience, but like people get setup experience and get to see the logistics, what Dana goes through with setting up a tournament. They get organizational experience if they want it. I got to help with casting. And I probably could have casted more games if I didn't have school throughout the day.
Right.
I didn't want to miss classes. It was a pretty rough week for classes that week. But yeah, it's just one of those things where there's opportunities. And I like that because it's easier to get that opportunity and to cast a couple things than to go to say Upsurge and say, hey, let me cast for you. Like, and so it's and I get to cast with Chilling Walk and stuff, and so he knows his way around the stuff, and really just kind of helped hold my hand through it, because usually when I cast League, I cast play-by-play, because my knowledge of League is not at the level I want it to be, but I was casting Kelly that day, and so he kind of guided me through it, so it was good.
Yeah, he's been at it for a little bit. And I've heard some of his work, and yeah, I'm stoked he got into it, because he's also doing a podcast now too, which his setup looks way fancier than mine because it has cameras and he has like a studio. I think I'm assuming that's at the college.
That's Dana's office.
Okay. I was wondering, I was like, why does this look so nice? Did he save up for this? This all looks expensive.
I mean, I think the equipment is genuinely his, that or he's loaning it out from the school. But as far as like the space, it's Dana's. It's Dana's office.
Well, it makes great presentation. I mean, I have font for my video.
You font. What you need to do is you need to get just like pictures, right? Just put pictures up.
Yeah, okay, so I've actually had a few ideas for doing all this, and I just don't want to. I just don't want to. I like simplicity.
Simplicity is fine.
I love simplicity. I like just listening to the voices. Like whenever I listen to a podcast, I don't ever look at the video. And in fact, I think the video is just a giant waste of data, because I'm at work. I have my cell phone, with headphones in and plugged into my ears. And other than that, I just listen to podcasts, and that's how I kind of wanted to present it. Was the way I take in podcasts. And even though they have a visual part of it, and like they're kind of pointless. And like other than that, it's just two people's face talking, and I could watch anything for that. I don't want to.
I think that's fair. I think that's actually incredibly valid. I'm personally, I don't listen to many podcasts, so when I do take in podcasts, the two I take in, I don't really even know if you call it a podcast. The first one is Hot Ones.
I love Hot Ones.
Yeah, so I watch that because it's fun to watch, right?
That's fun to watch. Yeah, if I had that set up, oh my God, I would gladly do video.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's what I usually watch, and then I do one from a popular Destiny content creator named Mr. Fruit, where he hosts a podcast with him and two of his friends, and they have guests on. But that's an in-person podcast, and it's on YouTube, and that's how I take in his content, anyways. So I like watching him in person.
You watch it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll
No, don't change what you're doing.
I'm gonna change for you, Ashley.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Can I do an ASMR podcast?
I love it. Oh my gosh, I've listened to a lot of cooking ASMRs lately, and they are so soothing. I will put on, and as far as on the professional level, I think Gordon Ramsay is outright abusive, but he has some of the, just like his in-home cooking, where it's just him in his kitchen. They're just some of the most soothing things to listen to.
The man knows the line.
He does. Yeah, he's got the knowledge. That is for sure.
Yeah. But no, just do what makes your podcast feel good, right? That's what you do. As long as you're bringing something like you to the table, interesting and uniquely to you, that's what'll bring people in and what is comfortable. Don't push yourself out of the comfort zone because other people say you have to,
There's a virus going around the world. I'm already outside my comfort zone.
Yeah. I'm saying be true to you.
Ashley, I'm just messing with you.
Look, man. I have to live by be true to you, all right?
I get I respect that.
I'm out here trying to cast for the army as a trans person. It's not easy, okay?
I don't know. I wouldn't know that. Well, respect to you. You're doing it. So mazel tov. That says a lot about them too. So that's good.
Oh yeah, the Army esports is awesome. They're incredibly accepting. They've been great to me. But yeah. No, it's so just be you, man.
Fair enough. Ashley, I appreciate you. Thank you. I think
Yeah.
I like that note. We should end on that one.
All right.
Just be you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being on.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you had fun. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I said, I love organic conversations. I didn't know who you were beforehand. I think I got a good idea now. I mean, I knew relatively because like obviously Twitter, but
You read my tweets.
yeah,
I'm #1 Mordio fanboy. Duh.
Bless you. Oh yeah, that explains the Culver Stockton thing. Explains that now.
Yeah.
I was actually wondering how you like knew him. I was like,
Yeah, I went to school with him.
So you know what? We're not going to end on that note. 1 second. So Mordio, I've actually talked to him on a how is it worded?
A non-professional level.
Yeah. So it was after Hugh Fest, and I felt obligated to go to this club. I hate clubs. I don't care about any of it.
The Hugh Fest party. Yeah.
It was a different one. So this there was 2 of them. The second one I had fun at because most people had flown out and it was just me and a few other people I knew, and then I could be a stranger to places. I don't have to have any expectation or anything like that. This one was a different one. It was I don't know where it was. I don't know what it was about. I forget. But Mordio was there and I was eating some chicken. And he came up and just like chatted to me, and he was like kind of civil, and I was like, "What?
Oh, wow. You got a weird version of Mordio."
I think he might have just been drained from the day, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, why are you being normal? What the fuck is get out of get out of my fucking face before this is ruined.
Yeah, don't ruin my perception, man. I don't want it. No. I have a trouble referring to him as Mordio, but yeah, Will.
You can call him Will.
He's a character.
Yeah.
He's a genuinely good person, and
I think so. I've heard some genuinely not good things about it, like from him as a human. Like I have heard things I don't like.
Yeah, I understand. I've heard some similar things. I've also seen him be a genuinely good person.
Right.
And so he's someone that I compare to Tyler 1, not in the fact that he rages and he doesn't do it the same way as Tyler 1, but he pushes the envelope.
Yeah.
To really just keep everybody out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
You don't know how to interact with Mordio because you don't know what Mordio is gonna give you.
So the thing about that is, I know how to interact with Mordio. I don't know how to interact with Mordio in public. But if it were behind closed doors, just me and him, I would pull him aside. What the fuck are you doing? Oh my god.
he's a character, man. He's just doing his thing. No, I think. I also think he's matured quite a bit. I think, of course, he still keeps that like pushing the envelope side of himself for like that's what you see on Twitter and that sort of thing. If you've ever seen any of his YouTube videos, they're hilarious.
I have. Weird. Yeah, they are weird.
Yeah, but
as
far as like who he was when he came into Culver, right? Where he had his difficulties in the past with previous teams and with school.
Robert Morris.
Robert Morris.
Being the most notable one, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he came to Culver while we weren't the best team, and we didn't have a bad season, but he was by far our best player. He kind of matured as a leader, right? And I've listened to comms, just him playing with his Clash team, and just him leading in game and in voice, and so he's definitely become a more mature person. Of course, he's always going to have that side of him that's crazy and pushing, but I think he's growing, and he's even if he's a little bit toxic, he's not a bad guy.
Okay, well that's fair. Okay, so I take your word over it because I obviously have my personal experience, but I take your word for it because you have more personal experience than I do, and that still goes in there with the theme of be yourself. Because if Mordio is not himself, then I don't know who Mordio would be, because I don't know if he can be anybody else besides Mordio.
I don't think he can't be anybody else, and honestly, he doesn't care what anyone thinks about him.
I could tell.
He's just doing his thing, and if he's unsatisfied, he'll tell you about it, and if he's happy, he'll tell you about it, and you're gonna get a bunch of random crap and toxic stuff in between. It's just that's Mordio.
Fair enough. All right, let's end it there. Thank you, Mordio. You can. Yeah, I hope he listens to this.
I don't know if he will.
He probably won't. Let's face it. But yeah, thank you very much, Ashley. Again, thank you for your time and for your experience. It was very enlightening. I mean, thank you for telling me about Overwatch.
Yeah, it was good to be on.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me.
Yeah, have a good night and a good stream. You're having a stream later on. Although again, this is going to be posted by the time that's off. But I'll put your Twitter on the description below, and I'm sure you'll have more streams.
Yeah, it probably will. Who knows? If my internet doesn't die.
Yeah, well, I hope not. All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you. I forgot to mention in the intro that Ashley and I actually had never spoken to each other before. We've interacted on Twitter, but we've never actually spoken. So this is also a podcast for me to get to know her, who she is as a person, and obviously, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of this whole thing with like a lot of people I invite on here. But yeah, I really enjoy the ones that I don't ever speak to. So when I get them on the podcast, I have no idea what to expect. They have a vague idea of what to expect. And it usually turns out pleasant. Actually, I haven't had one that hasn't been pleasant yet. Every podcast I've done, I've uploaded, unless it's in a queue to upload later. But that means that no one has disappointed me, and I haven't disappointed them. So that's probably a good thing. But yeah, that's going to be today's podcast. Thank you very much for listening. My name is Joshua FequezQuest. You can follow me on Twitter at Fequez. That is twitter.com/Fequez, P-H-E-Q-E-S. I feel like I said that in a weird order. I don't know. I'm still kind of reeling from Final Fantasy VII. Honestly, like I want to do a video so bad. I think that's going to be my next project. I have 16 more days of lockdown in Nevada. Hopefully it doesn't get extended past that because I can't believe I'm saying this. I actually want to go back to work. I want to go back to my boring cubicle. I want to talk to my boring coworker. My coworkers aren't that boring. They're actually really fun to talk to for the most part. But yeah, I'm gonna make a video on Final Fantasy, and hopefully that'll inspire me to do one on Chrono Cross as well, because I love Chrono Cross. But yeah, that's it for now. Thank you very much for joining me again. Catch you on Friday. I'll actually have it up on time this go around. I believe my next guest is going to be Tor, who's a CSL writer for Dota. We talk a lot about Dota, so that should be good. I don't know anything about Dota. I don't know anything about Valve. I know a vague thing about Valve, but one of the reasons why I wanted Tor on there was to educate me. Now, there's another reason I have people on here. I'd like to be educated about certain things in the esports scene, collegiate esports scene, how developers approach things, and that's a lot of what we get into next week. So look forward to that one. I hope you give me a little like, share, subscribe. I said I wasn't going to be doing that anymore. I'm just going to slip it in this time. I don't know if I'm going to keep it up because, again, I don't really like hawking things anymore. I just want to do my thing. If you like it, and you'll show respect. Or, if you like it and you don't show respect, and hopefully you'll listen again and be sure to do it next time. But either way, I feel like I'm rambling. I love you all. Be safe, be healthy, have a good one. See you Friday.